Hello and welcome to Blue Army TV. I'm sitting here with Carlisle, just won 1-0 away from home against Scunthorpe United in what is probably, maybe not the best performance, but the best win we've had all season. It's the win against the best opposition, at the very least. You know, after two very disappointing losses in York and Rochdale, who were two title-fighting teams. I was worried going into the next couple of games. We had Hartlepool, who historically for Carlisle have been quite a difficult game. You know, there and thereabouts. It's you know, there's a bit of rivalry, a bit of hatred between the two sides. So that game's never going to be easy. Not to mention they were on a good run of not in a good run of form, but they've had a very good start to the season. They were fighting for the playoffs. They're definitely a top-end team. And then you come up against a very, very good Scunthorpe team. And I'll say that again, very good. Before today, they were unbeaten. And, you know, to go away to that team who have just, I think, they beat one of the top teams last week as well. One of York, Rochdale, or Forest Green. And you see that game and you're scared. You look at that and you think, oh God, that's going to be a really difficult game. And it was a difficult game, but we've come away with the 3 points. And especially to go away to a team like that and win, says a lot about our character. Especially to bounce back from those two losses. And it's no coincidence that came going back to a 4-2-3-1. Not being scared of the opposition, certainly not in the first half at the very least. Not being scared of them, going with our 4-2-3-1, going with a very attacking lineup, and we score and we keep a clean sheet. And it's no coincidence either that going to a back four has made our defence a lot better. Look, we conceded one against Hartlepool. I think it was a little bit of a freak goal, and we kept a clean sheet today against a very good Scunthorpe attack. And again, I repeat, I don't think that's a coincidence that that's happened when we've gone with less men in the defence. Not to mention what has been our first choice centre-back pairing of Terrell Thomas and Mugabe, both being out injured. Now, I think Feeney's a better centre-back than both of those, so I'm glad he's back in the team and back as the captain. But I was worried about Hayden coming in this game. I really was worried about Hayden. He hasn't been in the squad recently, at all. And he had a very poor start to the season, starting alongside Terrell Thomas, and was rightfully, and I will say this, rightfully dropped from the squad. He's been very disappointing since he came back. It's a player who I quite like from his last spell at Carlisle, but have been really disappointed with him since he came back from Wrexham. And yet today, even being worried about him, he showed his quality, and I was really happy to see that. It was a weird kind of mix of, different eras, seeing Feeney and Hayden start next to each other. We had Hayden, he left, we had a season, and then we had Feeney come in. They're two centre-backs from different eras that both left the club and have now come back at the same time. And it's a kind of strange kind of, when you think of dream lineups, what players do you think would work well together from different eras of Carlisle? It's almost like seeing one of those teams with both of those two players starting at centre-back. But Feeney, fantastic. Aaron Hayden I thought was very good as well. And then you look at the two full-backs. I think Cameron Harper, despite not scoring, despite not assisting like he did last week, I think he had a much better game than he did last week. Defensively at the very least, and he had to, because we were under a lot more pressure against Scunthorpe, and he did do his defensive work a lot better. There was no longer that gaping hole at the back when he moved forward. He managed to, and he did get forward at times as well. He didn't really sacrifice his attacking play for his defensive play. He just got back a lot better today. And then Archie Davis was his usual fantastic self. Breeze, clean sheet, made a couple of saves, but overall, as I always say with Breeze, he did the basics well, and so there wasn't really much room for Scunthorpe to take advantage of any kind of misplaced passes, throws. I actually think today came down to which keeper was better, because I think their goalkeeper really disappointed me. I'm not sure if it's their first choice keeper or their second choice, I'm not really sure, but he was just terrified to come off his line. He looked small in the goal. He wouldn't come off his line. And, Aaron Hayden should have had a goal really early on, and then about 5 minutes later, he did score from a corner. He had two very good chances from a corner, both kind of in-swingers on the goalkeeper that managed to get to the back post, that if it had been in our goal, Breeze would have came out and claimed. And I do not doubt that. I don't doubt that whatsoever. Either of those two big Aaron Hayden chances, one of which he scored, wouldn't have happened in our goal, because Gabriel Breeze would have came and claimed them. But their keeper didn't, and we took advantage of that. And honestly, we looked very dangerous from corners, from crosses, and from set pieces the whole game, because I don't think their keeper looked entirely comfortable. But yeah, we started the game off maybe a little bit shaky. In the first 5 minutes, I think Scunthorpe were maybe the better team, and then after that, for the next kind of half an hour, I think we really established ourselves. And then the red card happened on a tackle on Georgie Kelly, which for me, I think the tackle on Luamba that sent him off injured with what hopefully isn't a concussion, I think that challenge was a lot more of a red than the Georgie Kelly one was, so I almost think it balances out, and you think of the decision we've had against us. And up until that point, I thought the referee was very incapable and was making a lot of wrong decisions, because Scunthorpe were diving a lot, throwing themselves to the floor, and every single time he seemed to give a foul, and every single time he seemed to give a yellow as well. So when we got a bit of luck our way, and we got... there was a foul on Georgie Kelly, which, dangerous in and of itself, because we know Georgie Kelly's history with injuries. So a bad tackle going on him, a red card tackle, we're lucky he's okay, and we're lucky that it was a red card, I think. And to be honest, if I could go back in time and change it, I'd maybe ask for it not to be given as a red card, because after the red card, and certainly after Luamba went off injured, Scunthorpe looked by far the better team, and that second half Scunthorpe were by far the better team. If you had just switched over to watch Carlisle Scunthorpe, maybe you saw the result on your phone and you wanted to watch the second half, and you saw that being a red card, just from looking at the way the two teams were playing, you'd think Carlisle had a man sent off. We were under pressure constantly, we couldn't get the ball forward, we were just defending for our lives a lot, which when you've got a player like Morgan Feeney, you can maybe afford to do that a little bit because he's a fantastic centre-back, but it's not a sustainable way of playing football, and we didn't really threaten much in the second half, and we were by far second best in the second half. And I think a big part of that was Luamba going off, Wern being put out on the right, and us playing with Gilead as a number 10. Now, I like Alex Gilead, but he's not a number 10. He's better as a kind of defensive midfielder, and we've seen it a lot this season, especially in the York and Rochdale games, where we don't play with a number 10. Especially the York game, we stuck with our 4-2-3-1, but didn't play with a number 10. We played with 3 defensive midfielders instead of that. And then obviously against Rochdale, we just threw everything out of the window and played with 3 defensive midfielders in the back 5. So both of the games where we haven't played with a number 10, we've looked poor. And when we changed things today, when Luamba went off and we had to put Wern out wide, and we lost that natural number 10, we suffered again. And it just shows the importance of having a natural attacking midfielder in Mark Hughes' 4-2-3-1. And I don't even necessarily think Wern's a bad winger. I just think you lose a lot from him by not having him in the middle. Now, he was on a yellow card, I think, so maybe that's part of the reason you want to move him out wide. I'm not sure if Adjiboye was on the bench, but I'd have much rather seen him out wide for Luamba, or even Luke Armstrong, who did go on to play as a winger towards the end of the match when Linney came off. But yeah, I think a big part of why we looked poor in the second half was the lack of a number 10. And, of course, the lack of Luamba, who is having a fantastic game. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, we've gone away from home to one of the best teams in this division, a team that before today was unbeaten. One of only 2 teams. No, I think they were the only team, weren't they? Yeah, because Forest Green got beat by Rochdale earlier today. So they were the only team left that were unbeaten in this league. They were on fantastic form. They'd just come off a very good match against, I think, was it either Rochdale or York? One of the two, or Forest Green, where they'd beaten a top team. And I can imagine, for a lot of people, Scunthorpe were the favourites today. But we've gone away from home. to one of the most difficult games you're going to get this season, and we've taken 3 points. That comes down to a good first half, some good set-piece play, and in the final half of the game, some good defending from Hayden and Feeney. They had chances. They hit the post at one point. And I'd like to see us approach the second half very differently. But we started the game in an attacking way, got our goal, and then, fortunately, we could rely on ourselves to see the game out, even if it wasn't pretty. But yeah, look, you can't ask for anything more from that game, I don't think. Maybe when they go down to 10 men, you expect to be a bit more attacking, a bit more forward. You kind of say, oh, let's press that advantage, which we didn't do. But before the game, if you'd have offered me a 1-0 win, I'd have snatched your hand off. So I'm going to be happy with it. I'm just going to be happy with it, because it's another 3 points. We're only 1 point off top now. Yes, Rochdale have the 2 games in hand, but you've got to win them. And there's a lot of football left to be played. We're staying in that title fight. It's 2 wins in a row, going into a very difficult game against Forest Green. And before that, you've got the Boston FA Cup game as well, I should say. But yeah, look, let's just celebrate that win. Good win against a good team, and we're back in that title fight, I think. And it was a big statement win today as well. It was almost a matter of, we can play against the big teams, which has been the big criticism Mark Hughes has got, where he's kind of freaked out and panicked against the big teams and made wholesale changes that didn't work. We've approached this game against a big team in our usual way, and we've came away with the 3 points. In a game that probably was ruined by the referee, but look, I'm not going to complain. But yeah, there's not really much more to say from that, to be honest. I think Grant again looked good when he came on, but I think the big talking point has to be the 2 centre-backs, because if Hayden can keep that kind of form up, then Mugabe and Thomas aren't getting into that team. Now, I personally think our best centre-back pairings Feeney and Mugabe, but it's an interesting conversation to have when one of them comes back. Georgie Kelly playing another 90-minute game, or nearly 90 minutes. I'm not sure who he took off in it. He made a few subs in injury time just to kill the clock. But he played at least 90 minutes to Georgie Kelly. Again, had a red card tackle on him, and he looks fit still, so that's nice to see again. It almost proved to me that if he's fit, he's going to start over Armstrong, which I'm not sure whether I agree with, but I'm not necessarily unhappy about either, because I think Georgie Kelly's a fantastic striker, and then I also think Luke Armstrong's a fantastic player to have coming off the bench. Now, maybe I'd have it the other way around, because Luke Armstrong, I think, is more of a starter, and Kelly is more effective as an impact sub. You know, when Kelly comes off the bench, and we've seen it this season already, when Kelly comes off the bench, teams don't know how to deal with him. But yeah, if he's going to start, I've got absolutely no problem with that. You know, that the wingers have to stay the same, in my opinion, with Linney and Luamba, but either Armstrong or Kelly I'm happy with. I just hope that isn't a concussion for Luamba, because that would mean I think he has to miss 24 days, something like that. Was it 24 or 21? Might be 21, actually. Either way, it's a big chunk of time that we kind of need him. And I'm almost worried that if Luamba's out injured, we're going to see more of Wern out wide and a kind of makeshift player in the number 10 role, which, in my opinion, hasn't worked. But we'll see. Maybe we'll see Adjiboy out there. Maybe we'll see Armstrong start alongside Kelly, with Armstrong being further out wide. But hey-ho. There's a selection headaches ahead of us, but good win today. Really good win today. I'm proud to be a Carlisle fan today after that game. It wasn't pretty, but it's just the 3 points we needed. At the end of the season, we're not going to look back on this game and think, oh, we played badly. We're going to look back at this at the end of the season and say, well, we got 3 points there. We got a very difficult 3 points there. If we win the league this season, we're not going to look back at this game and say, oh, I wish we'd played better in the second half. Well, we're going to look back and think that was a really important 3 points in our way to win a promotion. And hopefully that's the case. But yeah, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, please, and in a bit.